Okay, this is our third Zoom that we've had. I've had individual Zooms with other people that have needed help, but as far as like the wide open ones, this is the third one. We really should be on chapter 3, but it's okay. We still have 7 weeks left to the course, so that's halfway done. And there's 3 more chapters. You know, we go through chapter 6. So keep that in mind as you're planning out your November, the rest of October, and then really pretty quickly into December, the semester's over. So there's not a midterm exam, but there is a final exam, which are just questions. And I think I have all that posted already in Blackboard, so you can take a look at it. I'm also very sick. I have bronchitis right now, so we'll see how far we can get tonight without me making anything worse. I have some cold water here, which is helping, and we'll see how far we can go. But I had a lot of people in the past few days text me and email me with the specific questions that I want to try to hit in this. I just have been sick, so I haven't been able to respond. But where we're going to start tonight is with the end of chapter 2, which we did cover sort of in our last video, but not everybody was there. So we're going to start with the end of chapter 2 and then look at we did actually start talking about some things in chapter 3. So we'll look at the final labs of chapter 3 as well. So in chapter 2, we've already gone through a lot of it and explained a lot of this in the previous labs. So we're going to just look at, there are 4 labs that were assigned. Actually, let me see what 4. Let me move these windows out of the way. Chapter 2 labs 12. 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay. Those are the 4 that are actually on the assignment for chapter 2. Where did my screen go that I'm sharing? Hold on a second. There we go. So we're going to look at 12.12 first. This program, I don't want to make it any smaller to see the whole screen, but what we're going to use with this program is the floor division operator. There were a couple programs that you use the floor division operator in the challenge activities, but there's 2 kind of opposing concepts in chapter 2. One is the mod operator, which is the percentage sign, and that operator looks at things that are left over. And then the floor division looks at the whole number of a formula. So if you do 6 and then floor 4, like an example right here, and if you did, so you take 4 and divide that into 6, that comes out to 1, and then you have 2 left over. So the half of that is is shown as a fraction is then discarded. So, or here, let's do it. It's a calculator. For I always do that backwards. So 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. So the 1 is the 1 is what we're looking at. The whole number is what we're looking at, and then the point, anything after is discarded. So we're gonna write a program that does that. It says it reads in a user number and a division number, and outputs the user number divided by the division number 3 times using floor division. So if my input is 2000 as the user number, and I'm dividing that by 2, then my output is only going to be the whole number of 1,500 and 250. Anything that's after that is just discarded. So we use the floor operator for that. Now I should have pulled up Spider, but if you took this program, this is the solution here. And if you took this program and you changed this from, you took out the floor division operator and just did a normal division, then you could see that your numbers are going to have decimals at a certain point. So we have 2000 divided by 2. If my input was 2000, my user number was 2000, and my division number was 2, then basically on line number 7, what we're saying is my new user number, what we would be saying is going to be equal to, I put a pound sign, 2000 divided by 2, and that of course equals 1000. So now when I print user number, this line is going to print print 1000. So this line, hold on a second. I want to look at something real quick. This pound sign in other compilers works to comment things out, but not in Python. So I'll just leave it like this. Actually, I gotta do 3. What a pain in the butt. Okay. So I just wanted to comment these out so I could leave it there and it would be ignored by the compiler. So that prints 1000 then to the screen. Now on line 10, I'm reassigning user number again. So what I'm saying is now the new user num is going to be equal to 1000. I'm going to say floor divide by 2. It's the same thing. And that, of course, 1000 divided by 2 is 500. There's no decimal there. So 500 gets printed to the screen here. And every time that I hit this statement, because it says do it 3 times, every time I hit this line of code, it reassigns user number to a new value. So now user num doesn't equal 2000 like it started. It went from 2000 to 1000 to 500. And on this one, it's 500 divided by, or floor 2, which comes out to, it happens to come out to another whole number. So it would print 250. Now, if I were to just take these and do normal division signs, and if you had whole numbers all along the way, you don't see a difference. But because I'm using floor division, it does ignore, it ignores the decimal. So let's do a different input instead of, if we do a different input instead of 2002, let's do something different. Oh, why doesn't it like my comments? This is just a Zybooks error. Why?
Do you need the pound sign?
Well, that's how you normally do a comment in Python.
What are the pound signs used for?
To comment something out.
Okay.
Like I wanted to write this in English and I didn't want it part of the code. Just like up here on line 1, it said type your code here. That doesn't get calculated. Let me try the pound.
So the triple columns, I mean the triple columns tells the program to ignore the comment.
Just like a pound sign.
Oh, okay.
Let me try the pound. I just on if I were using a different compiler, it would change the color, and it's not doing that here, so I didn't think it was going to work. But I see like on line 6 and line 2, it's working. Well, it is changing it to gray though, isn't it? Is that you, Wiljonda?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you joined us. Sorry I wasn't able to answer your questions earlier.
It's okay, I understand.
All right, let's try it again. I want to keep those comments in there so it makes sense. Okay, cool. That'll work. Okay, so 2002. Now if we, let's see what this one would be. We had 4. All right, now if our numbers were 100 and then 4, our output is going to be 25, 6, and 1. So if we work through that here, you're going to see that floor division is different because our numbers are 100 and then 4. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. Then we're going to say 25 floor 4. So 25 divided by 4 is equal to 6.25. And then what gets printed to this screen is 6. Because we use floor division, so it discards the decimal and anything after that. Now here we have 6 as our user number and 4 is our, or 6 is our, yeah, user number, and floor is our division number. So 6 divided by 4 is equal to 1.5. And then number 1 gets printed to the screen because again, it ignores the decimal. So that's where, you know, depending on your inputs, it could have no decimals, or it could have decimals, but all we're looking at is the whole numbers. Does that, it's hard when I'm not in a classroom. Does that make sense? Is what I want to say.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I don't see anyone else trying to come in. But that is, that's the solution to this. Now, if you had Spider or you had Pie Charms or something, take this program right as it is and put it in another compiler and run it. Change these from 2 division signs to 1 division sign, and you'll see that what you'll get printed to the screen then is 25, 6.25, 1.5. The floor just makes it the whole number. That's all you're looking at there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For line 7, in your notes, were you supposed to floor that? Was it supposed to be user num floor div num?
Yes.
Would that be different than 25 as a result?
No, because our starting numbers in the second example were 104. So we're just reusing user number. So we're saying 100 divided by 4. Oh, I have divided by instead of floor. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was wondering if that made a difference.
No, I mean, we're using floor division, but it works in the same way as a division sign. I just was saying it's the same as division sign, but when we do 2 of them, we ignore the decimal. One other way to do this is, let's see. Oh no, I don't think that would work. It's kind of confusing. I think that they say the new user number or user number is entered in here on the first time. User number is 100 and division number is 25, for example. Those are just example numbers. They're variables. They can change anytime. Not 25. I wanted that to be 4.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
So sometimes Zybooks has an input box below.
Yeah.
Yes, there. Oh, yes. Enter program input optional. Now, sometimes they are present and sometimes they are not. In this instance, it's present. That just confuses me so much when
I think once you get past chapter 1 in the beginning of 2, there's always an input box. Because once we described how input works, then they let you do your own input. So in submit mode, there's not an input box because they run different tests for you. But when you're in develop mode, that input box is there. So you have 2 inputs that are stopped, that are expected because we have 2 input statements. So that's where we write 104 and then run our program, and then we can test our output. Then I could try 250 or 200 or 25, let's say 25 and 2, and then run my program and see if I, get the right answers. Or I could run 2002, because up at the top, they'll always give you an example. They'll say, okay, so if the input is 2000 and then 2, this is what your output should be. So that's where you could try those
Okay.
as options. So in the beginning of Zybooks, yes, they did sometimes supply input for you, but that's because our program, we didn't explain input yet. And I think from probably about here on out, there'll always be an input box when you're in develop mode. But then when you go over to submit mode, you just do submit for grading, and then it'll run through some trials. It'll run through some out examples for you. So you don't have to put anything in there. It'll say, okay, here's some examples. If it's 2000, if it's 100, if it's 8000, this is what your output is. That check, you got your whole points. But it is confusing, and I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's all right. So to get this lab correct, all that's expected of the student is to enter 2 values in the input box that work out.
Well, when you're in develop mode, yeah. I mean, you can put any 2 numbers over here. Let me copy this because I don't know what it started with. Let me load my default. Okay, so it's completely blank. So yeah, you're starting.
Oh,
You have a basic instructions. Now that we looked at the answer, it says write a program that reads integers, user num, and division num. So I always stop right there and say, okay, I've got my first direction. So I'm going to say, and it tells me user underscore num, div underscore num. So that was my first step. So I'm going to say user underscore, let me type in there, user underscore num equals int input, and then div underscore num equals int input. And I know I'm working with numbers, so I take them as an integer. And it even says it reads integers as input. So I have ints and I have input. If you don't put those as integers, then you're going to have a problem. It's because it's going to, once you go to calculate it, it's going to try to divide a string. Because numbers in Python, remember everybody, this is super important. Numbers, unless they're read as integers or floats, they're going to be read in as strings or characters. And then it'd be like saying A divided by 4 or Katie divided by 4. You can't do that.
is int and float, are those the only 2 what do you call those?
I don't, they're called
Numeric types.
yeah, they're called data types.
Data type?
There are variations of them. So like, and I think there's always a whole number, which is integer, and there's a float, which is decimal. And I'd have to Google that for Python, but you could Google data types in Python. In other languages, there are more, but they all fit into those kind of 2 numeric values, like an integer also has a long, which stores a larger number, and then it has a short, which stores a shorter number. It just takes up less space in memory in some languages. And then double or float is sometimes also called double, which is another decimal. There's character, which is 1 letter. There's string is data type, which is words. There's other data types. There's a data type called a Boolean value, which stores a true and a false. So there's different data types and each language might have a different keyword. So I don't know all the data types in Python. I don't
Yeah,
even,
that's a tall order to know all the data types, but for
Yeah.
numbers, as far as numbers go,
we're gonna fit them into those either a decimal number, which then you would put float, or a integer, and then which is a whole number.
got
you
it.
would put in.
Thank you.
Is it necessary to know all the data types and all the other types of stuff for you to be able to be proficient in Python?
No, but I'll tell you, as as you get it going further, you'll figure it out, because
Mm,
if you try to calculate a large number and it's in an integer and there's not enough memory set aside, you'll get memory leaks. But that's real advanced programming, and you would know that by then.
okay.
But as far as what we're doing, and starting in programming, and for a long time, you can just think of it as like a whole number or a decimal number.
Okay.
Even most languages, they differentiate a string in a character, like one letter in a word, but Python doesn't. It just makes it a little easier though too.
Huh.
But none of that's kind of described here, and it's just understanding programming, and then you'll learn that as you go on. Okay, so that was my first sentence. So I wrote a program that reads those two. And then it outputs user num divided by div num 3 times using the floor division. So this could be a little bit hard, because it doesn't tell you what to store user num into. Like, you could have said new number, maybe you could have created a new variable, because it just tells you what the expression part is.
This is the point that I got stuck on this problem.
Yeah, I know. I can see that. I would see where it would be like, okay, what do I do next? So it says user num divided by division number using the floor division. So I'm going to put floor division. So really, this part, the expression part, which is right here, that's kind of explained, but it doesn't tell you where to store it into a variable name. You just have to do that. So, like, to know. So what, in the example I showed you, I reuse user num so that I can, and then it says do it 3 times. So I could take, oh, I don't want to copy, because I wanted to go back to my original code, but let me grab a notepad real quick so I don't lose what my original code was. There we go. So it says do this 3 times. Now, and then print it out between each time, because you kind of, so I read this full sentence now, and then I'm going to look at the inputs to see what my output is. So you kind of have to use these as clues to what your output's going to look like. And it's very basic, so I don't want to have a return statement, because I want to do 1000 space 500 space 200 as a sample. So I don't want to have a return.
Would a return mean an error?
It would generate an error. Yep. So my print, let's see. So that's why my print statement says end equals the space, because print by itself throws in that return. And then the last one didn't have it. So if I coded it to do my output once, And my last output did have a return, but when you were to run the program, those I think, I'm going the wrong way, would be easy to figure out because it'll say, oops, you don't need a return there. You do need a return here. So that's why I have a space, and then a return on the last one. Now, what I've done different here so far than what I had. Now, remember what I had, I don't think I can share this. Well, I can share the screen, but remember what I had was just using user num and not a new variable called new num. Whoops, new number. That would create another error. What on the first time when I ran it, when I run this the first time, it would work. I would get, you know, 4 printed to the screen. But then when I ran it the second time, user number never changes, so I would get 4, 4, 4. I'd get the same results. So if I were to create a new variable like user num, I would need to do something a little different where I say, okay, now my user num, let's see, after I print it, I can say now my user num is equal to, it's going to be set equal to my new num. And that, so every time I go around, I use the new division, the new number that was calculated.
And that change in value begins after line 7.
Yes. Okay, let me, no, this one, so let me run, let's see if we can, let's go back to develop mode. Let me put in 104 as my sample input. Let's see if I get any errors. Nope, I still get 25, 6, and 1. So let me go over to submit mode, submit for grading. And I still get a 10 out of 10. But I've coded. Okay, let me go back. I'll go back and forth so I can show you both ways. I've coded this 2 different ways. So this is normally how I would do it. I think this makes a little bit more sense because it doesn't tell you to say user num equals user num divided by division num in the directions. So so you just write like x equals this divided by this. But the problem is if you didn't do line 7 and line 11, then user num never changes. So what you would actually get is the same number over and over again.
How did you know to do, I'm trying to work with 2 screens too to see the textbook, but it's not working out. But in the directions, it says something about 3 times. How did you know to, because I got stuck trying to fit the numeral 3 into the hard code instead of, there it is. Yes, 3 times. Using floor division. Well,
Oh, how did I know it wanted me to print that 3 different times?
yes,
I used
instead
this,
of like a numeral 3.
yeah. I used my output as a guide for what to try to figure out what they were talking about. Because here there's 3 outputs.
I see.
And it says
Okay.
output it says output user number divided by division number 3 times. So I look at my output and I have 3 times the output.
I see.
Now that's where people have a lot of questions though sometimes is like, what the hell are they asking me? And And once I explain to you what they're asking, it's a lot easier to code. So ask questions like that, and don't let that think that hinders your understanding of programming, because it doesn't. It's just that it's books. So what I wanted to show you here is if I didn't reassign new number, if I didn't reassign user number with the way that I coded it, and user number was set to 100, and I print the new number, I'm just repeating my code over and over. So my sample output is 25, 25, 25. It never changes. So when I run it in develop mode, I don't get any logic. I don't get any syntax errors. It works just fine. I can run it and run it. It looks good. I get output, output, output. But my numbers aren't changing. So when I go over to submit mode and I submit for grading, I'm gonna get a logic error because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It does on the first time, but I don't reassign it. So that's why if I were to code, if I create a new variable, I need to reassign those. Now let me show you the difference. So you could code it like this, and that works. And then let me pull up the other one, and you could code it like the first way I showed you. So whatever kind of logically makes more sense to you. So there's one example, screenshot that or whatever, so you can compare the two. And then the other one is this. This is what we coded at first. This just, both of them works. This just doesn't create that third variable called new num. All right, let's go on to the next one.
Okay. I do have a quick question. I never understood the escape mechanism, I guess. What the escape sequence called end equals empty single quotes. How is that different from the other ways to start a new line?
Well,
You know,
print by itself adds a new line. So the print, if you just said print user num,
yeah,
then at the end of that, it does a return by default.
Okay.
So if you don't want to do a return and you just want to do a space between the two, you have to add the end equals space. And then that basically says, okay, print's not gonna act as it normally does, and it's gonna supply a space after it prints what I'm asking it to print instead of return.
So that space is just to separate statements.
Yeah. So if this were first name and this were last name, I would say print first name and space, print last name. So my name is Katie Vandermeer with a space in between.
Oh, okay. Can it be used in the middle of the print statement? Like, for example, print user number, and then another input statement or statement that needs an input. Can it be used to separate the two?
So then like continued
Okay,
on.
like for example, user number and div number, if they are on the same print statement, can you use the end equals the space to separate them in the same print statement?
Ooh, like that?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. I think no.
Okay. without let's see. Okay.
No, but
Without the comma.
no, it wouldn't work that way either.
Okay.
But there is a way to insert spaces
Oh yeah, I see.
between. I just got to look at some sample output. I can't. My brain's not working right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it doesn't work that way. Not with the end, but it does work other ways.
Okay.
In this instance, would the / letter N work the same way as
Well, it's the same concept, but the /n is an escape sequence. That means a new line, so not a space. And those are meant to be inside of a string literal, so they're meant to be inside of quotes.
Oh, okay.
So we don't want a return statement, but if they wanted them to list as like top to bottom instead of left to right, you could do the /n if you had a string literal in there.
Oh, got it.
I think what you do to put a space in between the two, I think it would be a plus, like concatenate. There, that's how it would be. So then it would say user num space division num. And plus in this case doesn't mean atom, it means concatenate, like join the string. Do you see that, Wiljonda?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. Let's look at 213 now. Okay, this one gives you the print statement, so that's your exact code. It kind of just makes shows you an example of how to use the 2.f and does it for you. Thank you for telling us driving is expensive. We get that. We're writing a program with a car's gas mileage, which is miles divided by gallon, and the cost of gas, which is dollars divided by gallon, as floating points. As floating point inputs, and the output is the gas cost for 20 miles, 75, and 500. So I have two inputs, miles and the cost per gallon of gas, because it says in the input. So input, for example, if it's 20.0, that's how many miles I'm going. And then 3.15 is how much it costs, how much a gallon of gas costs, $3.15. And it says that in the beginning. So miles per gallon and dollars per gallon. So 20 after 20 miles, basically 20 miles is going to cost $3.15. So that's your first output. And then after 75 miles, I'm going to calculate how much my gas will cost. And then after 500 miles, how much my gas will cost. So whereas the gas mileage If it's 20 miles, it's going to cost me $3.15. That rounds it up. After 75, it's going to be $11.85, and after 500, it's going to be $79. So these are going to be hard coded 20, 75, 500. Those are going to be hard coded in part of the formulas because those aren't mentioned at all in my inputs. My inputs are going to be what changes, and that's going to be miles per gallon and the cost per gallon of gas. Look at, they even tell us the real mileage would include maintenance and depreciation. Thank you.
Truth.
Some funny person in the background writing this Zybooks was like, I don't want to fool these college students to think that's all that it takes to drive a car. Anyway, here's our solution. We have our two inputs, miles per gallon. We're taking them in as floats. And then we're going to calculate the after 20 miles. And so dollars, that we have three variables: dollars after 20 miles, dollars after 75, and how much it costs after 500. So we have three different variables that are going to be part of my outputs. I got here they're called your value 1, your value 2, your value 3. So they do let you decide what you want to call those. You know, if you just said your value 1, your value 2, your value 3, that would work too. Your value 1, 2, and 3. But those aren't really great variable names. Hang on a second, I gotta drink some water. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Let's see. So I'm trying to understand line 9. Could we dissect that? Just go through some of the syntax and what it's commanding the program to do? The F apostrophe bracket, and then the semicolon dot and so on. Yeah.
So what this is doing is this is the syntax for how you round something to the right of the decimal.
Okay.
So that's just the syntax: F, quote, and then the variable name. And then so I could end that one right here, and then I would have another one, print F, the other one.
I see.
Print F the other one. But what that would do then, if I had them on 3 different statements, instead of being from right to left, it would be from top to bottom, and that would cause an error.
Right.
So they're all in one statement.
Okay.
Here. So this is the syntax for how you do it. You just use the F and then the single quote, and then a curly bracket, the name of your variable, and then colon dot 2F. The F is for float. The dot 2 is for how far do you want to round it. So does it tell us? Well, it gives us an example. 3.1599 changes to 3.16. So I see that's 2 to the right of the decimal.
Got it.
So that's the syntax there. And if I wanted to round it out to 4 decimal places, then I would put 0.4F.
Is the F at the beginning indicating that it's a float statement?
Well, that's all that you would do for precision. I mean, that's how you wouldn't do that for an integer. It's just part of the syntax for for using a decimal value.
Okay. So it just means float.
Yeah, it means float. And then point, then you do the variable name colon, and then point how many places.
Oh, so the 2 or 3 it means places.
Yes, if I make
Oh.
this 3,
Mhm,
then
mhm.
it would say 3.159.
Oh, okay, I see.
And if I made it 8, it would say
Mm.
3.159999999. It would go out 8 places.
Okay.
When we're dealing with money, we always say 0.00 or 0.15. We always have change like that. So we always say 0.2F.
What if instead of the F apostrophe at the beginning of the statement, you wrote float? Would that not make sense to the program?
I don't know. Did you try it?
No.
I don't think that's the syntax, so I don't think that would work.
Well, I mean, for example, like in line 2 and 3, you're indicating you want the input to be a float, but then line 9, it's the letter F and an apostrophe. Does that mean the same thing as indicating that it's going to be a float?
Yes, but it does mean that that is float, but it's how you format. It's for formatting the number. So you couldn't put float there because that's not the way to format it.
Okay. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's how you code. It's the way you code the decimal value.
I gotcha.
But I mean, this is a print statement. This is an input statement too. They're a little different.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for clarifying that. I get
Yeah.
hung up on the details.
Yeah, that one is. So then we have our calculations, and you'd have to work out the math. We say 20 times 1.0 divided by miles per gallon. So what were my 2 sample inputs? 20.0, 20.0, and then 315. So on the first one, we're going to figure out how much we know it's $3.15 because our car gets 20 miles to every gallon. So we know it's going to cost $3.16 because that's what a gallon costs right now. So we say 20 times 1.0 divided by, here would be my sample input. On this one, it would be 20. And then we times it by 3.1 599. 3.1599. Oh, that we have to divide by 1 because if you just get out your calculator, you didn't put that in, you said 20 times 20 times 3.1599, you're going to get a pretty large number. So you need to basically 1.0 I keep saying 0.0, 1.0 divided by miles per gallon, which is 220.0. That changes this to 0.05. So then now we say 20 times 0.05 times 3.1599, and that gives us the right answer.
Do we need that one in there?
Did you do it differently? There's probably different ways you could write it.
Oh no, I am completely ignorant on I'm just I did not do it differently at all. I didn't even do it.
Okay.
I got so confused.
I don't know a different way on the formula. There might have been a program before this, I can't remember, that kind of led you in this path. But line 5 is basically after 20 miles, line 6 is after 75, and line 7 is after 500. So now here in develop mode, here's my input. So if I am going to do miles per gallon, so if you get 28 miles per gallon and gas right now costs $4.39, then let me run my program. And after 20 miles, I would have spent $3.14. After, what's the next one? 75 miles, it's going to cost me $11.76. And after 500, it's going to cost me 78. So think of it, this might be easier to think of this problem as, how much will it cost me to get to Florida? If I get this many miles per gallon, if think about your car and how much miles per gallon you get, and plug in a random gas price of what the average is, you can calculate how long it'll take you to get to Florida. You figure out the distance, and that's what you're just doing with this program. I mean, most people logically could, I think.
In any other computing space outside of Zybooks, will there ever be an enter program input box?
Not a physical box, like, no,
Okay.
not a physical box. Like if you're running this in PyCharms, I got a new laptop, so I don't have, wait, maybe I do have PyCharms or Spider on here. Hey, I do.
Yay.
I asked IT to put it on there, and they actually did.
Woohoo. I guess that input box confuses me sometimes too, because they're just kind of numbers hanging out in the air, like which one do I enter first, and then which one do they want me to enter second, and so on.
Yeah, don't let that confuse you. It's just how you enter in, it's just how you enter in data or sample data for Zybooks.
Mm-hmm. I got it. Gotcha.
I'm going to change my screen share to, can you see Spider now?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't used this in a while, but
sorry, I was about to ask a question.
yeah.
So how do you make the elements. I mean, how do you zoom the elements in Spider and make them larger? Like, how do you edit the working area to make the element above the coding area a little bit bigger? Like the play button now on top of that.
Do you mean like that, what I just did?
No. Now the elements
The menu.
like the menu, right? Like the files. Yeah, no, down below.
Like the tools menu with
Yeah,
the
like the
play
tools.
button.
Yeah, like the tools, the play button, and yeah, stuff like that.
It runs along up top. There's a folder icon and
Yeah,
yes.
right. In that area, yeah, in that whole area. How do you zoom it?
I don't know.
Oh, sorry, English is not my first language.
No, you're
That's
good. I know what you're saying, but I don't
Yeah.
know the answer to it.
Oh, okay.
How do you make this bigger? I don't know. I haven't opened up Spider in a while.
Oh, yeah, because on the one I'm using, they are very tiny. It's hard for me to see. And
I know
make all-
I'm on this teeny tiny laptop and my back's hunched over
Mm.
trying to see shit.
Okay.
Oh.
I need a bigger monitor. I
Mm.
have I asked a friend and I'm like, do you have an extra monitor? He's in IT. And
Mm.
I was like looking for a 27-inch, maybe even just a 24, something bigger I could put on my desk. And he's like,
Mm.
yeah, I have a couple laying around. They're 44 inches. I'm like,
Whoa.
I know. I'm like, I'm blind, but come on.
Yeah.
Like, I would have to sit across the room,
Ah,
but I might try it because it's free.
yeah.
But that
Might be cozy.
yeah, my office is in my bedroom, so then I could like put on a movie later and lay in bed and watch.
There you
Mhm.
go.
It's a good idea.
That's smart.
Oh, someone new is coming in. Okay, so let me throw this code over here. Well, you guys might know this better than I do because I haven't used Spider in a while, but but I was gonna say, what am I trying to show you? Let's just run it. So anytime you hit the input statements like 8 and 9, when you're running the program, that's where it would stop. You don't have an input box per se, but every input statement causes you to stop. It causes the compiler, the program to stop and waits for the user to enter in data.
Okay.
Ah.
So that's called prompt, right?
That's
I
a
don't know.
prompt, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was
Now, what let me figure out how to run this. Like, where is it stopping? Where's my I ran it. I see someone joined us. We're talking about chapter 2 right now. Maybe it's on the terminal. Let's try.
You're trying to run the code?
Yeah,
Oh, you actually just push on the play button right there?
here.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's the one I use to run codes.
But where's your output window?
If it's a prompt, it's gonna bring a new window. If it's a prompt.
Okay, mine's not doing that.
Okay.
That was my next question too, is where would they expect you to enter in those values, the inputs, if you don't have a Zybook box?
Is it in my output window? Well, Anja, do you have an output window in Spider?
Yeah, but normally normally for me, if it's a prompt, it brings a separate window. Even when I run the normal code, it just brings a separate window showing the code and the results of it.
Same with pie charm.
Mm.
Am I like missing something? We got like 800 windows open, so let's see. Let me save it. I don't even see an out. I don't see any output.
Me neither.
Does yours? But yours works like when you run something like this, right?
Ooh, is that it?
No. No.
I've only ever opened pie charm.
I probably should.
But usually you do the settings of how you're gonna run it when you first install Spider. So that's when it gives you an option to set on how you want to run the program.
Yeah, that was something that IT did. So and they've locked down your work PC, which is pretty useless, but Python console. I'm looking for it would be an output box that would come up, but I don't see that.
How strange that it wouldn't be forthright.
It should be uh-oh. You guys still there, right?
Yeah. Did Spider crash?
Still here.
Yeah. Let me try it before. Hold on a second. Blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, when you're working with a work laptop, I can't like quickly install some other compiler
Mm-hmm.
because they lock everything down. But let me just try something real quick. Either please create a new file. Click run. Ah, I got it.
Woo!
Okay. I read the instructions. Let me share. Okay, I ran it this time, and now in my my console or my output window, this
Oh,
is
yes.
the same as your output or your input box that's in Zybooks, but you never see a box like that unless you code it with GUIs. But so here, that's where I'd say, okay, I'm gonna go, this is how many miles per gallon. So let's say I get 34 miles per gallon, so I'd put that there. And then you hit enter and it goes to the next line of code. Here, this is where it says it's looking for dollars per gallon. So this is how much gas is. $4.39, and I hit enter. And then there's my output. No, what I hate about Zybooks is it doesn't give you prompts. And that doesn't help with the confusion. So when you run this, it simply says here, it's like right here where you are just entering 34 and then you're entering 4.39 and then you get your output. How I would code this is I would have prompts so you know what the hell you're asking and entering. So not just enter in miles per gallon and then something like print enter gas price, and it makes things more clear.
I agree.
And then even on your output, I would say I'd explain this in a statement, like after 20 miles or going 20 miles would cost you $2.58, going 75 would cost you $9.68, going 500 would cost you $64.56. And I think that it helps you to understand what you're doing, what you're trying to code. $4.89. I get 28 miles per gallon. This is my output. So that's how a normal program would interact, like outside of Zybooks.
Nice.
I'm gonna leave that open. Let me go back to share here. All right, can you see my Zybooks again?
Yes.
All right, we're taking a long time. Let's go to this next one. Because I want to go over the chapter 3 labs as well.
This is very generous. Thank you.
I hope. Well, I feel like most people at this point have like read these questions and they're just trying to figure it out now. So I don't feel like I'm like giving you solutions. I'm explaining the things.
Sometimes I noticed sometimes the labs at the end of a particular chapter are not really related to that chapter. So for example, you might have the labs of chapter 3 have solutions from chapter 2. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that.
Yeah. I do wish that they would, just because we're learning and it's an intro class, I do wish that they would put like refer to the material in 2.2 or something like that, because it's hard to go backwards. You have to wade through so many mouse clicks to go back. And yeah, I wish they would point us in a direction that we have learned already. Something else I've noticed in Zybooks that they do a lot is say, they'll tell you something and then they'll say, but that's discussed elsewhere. But have we already discussed it, or when are we discussing it?
You're a teacher. That's a teacher trick where you're like, we'll talk about that later. And you never get back to it.
Yeah.
Or who remembers it,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they do that. Okay, this next program here, we're calculating how many calories you burn during a workout. So that's based on different things. and they give you an example. And then they have all these numbers in here. And these this is your formula. So I'm basically trying to figure out, based on my age, my weight, my heart rate, and the amount of time that I exercise, how many calories can I burn? So I'm going to write a program that has user inputs of age, weight, heart rate, and time, like how many minutes I exercised. And then I'm going to calculate how many calories I burn, and it gives you the formula right here. And then I'm going to output it where I print just the calories, and I round it to 2. It's a float, so I do 2 to the right of the decimal. So if I'm 49, and I weigh 155 pounds, and my heart rate is at 148 for 60 minutes straight, I'm going to burn 736.21 calories. I actually think this one's a little bit more straight up. There they give you the formula. Here's the sample output. Here's the sample solution. Again, I don't like how they don't do any prompts. So if you're taking this over in Spider, it's not saying enter your age here, enter your weight here, enter your heart, which I think makes way more sense.
I totally agree.
Yeah, but I have four numbers that I'm taking in. I'm converting them to integers because I'm just taking in whole numbers. My formula is put out here for me. Be careful if you copy and paste this formula, because this uses X and not asterisk, and it uses a dash or a hyphen instead of a dash for subtract.
Ooh, they're trying to get ya.
Yeah, and also the variable names. So age is age years, weight is weight pounds, heart space rate. There's no spaces in variable names. So don't just copy that as your formula. You have to use your variable names have to match up with your formula. We're also using a multiplication and addition. So put parentheses around things you want to calculate first. So age times 0.27 has to happen before we add on weight times 0.03, So we have to use our parentheses in here. And then we just print out our calories. So let's do a sample input. See if I can copy this. So I'm 49, 155 pounds. My heart rate's at 148 for 60 seconds. Let me run this, and if I exercise for an hour, I will burn 736 calories. So submit mode, submit for grading, and they give us a couple more examples. If you're 25 and 130 pounds and your heart rate is at 120 for 45 minutes, you're going to burn 349 calories. I think this one's a little bit more straightforward.
I agree.
So I'll just leave it there for a minute. Let me scroll over all the way here. Well, that's the end of it, 8.3668. Oh, you could put parentheses around this last one too, and it doesn't affect your output. Here's a little trick. When you click on one parentheses, make sure it matches up. Where when you see that little outline, you can see the closing parentheses around that. So this open, here's the close. This open, here's that close. And that one is there. So basically your age, your weight, and your heart rate are calculated against these variables, and then you multiply by the time that you exercise.
And the time doesn't need to be in any kind of paren at all.
No, it's because it's multiplying 6 years, right? Because it's going to multiply time, the minutes divided by 8.36 last. It doesn't matter because parentheses are around this whole part first. So it does everything in there. And then it multiplies it by time, by the time that you exercise divided by 8.368. So no.
Would you get an error if you did put that entire thing in parens?
No, it should work.
Oh.
It shouldn't have a problem. As long if you did one at the beginning and one all the way at the end, it should not affect that. All right, that one's pretty straightforward. So this last one, I think this is the last one for chapter 2.
Ooh, yeah, this one really got me. I spent a lot of time with this. Running in circles.
Math functions. All right, I hate this solution. I think because I gave you this solution, but it's so their sample solution. Let's break it down a little bit easier. Come on. All right. Oh. We are if we are given we're given 3 floating point numbers, X, Y, and Z. We're going to output X equal to the power of Z. We're going to do an output for X to the power of this, and then the absolute value of X minus Y and the square root of X to the power of Z. So we're calculating 4 things. They're all put right here. But that's based on what X, Y, and Z are. So if X is 5.0, Y is 1.5, and Z is 3.2, then here's my 4 things that I'm calculating. That's my sample output. And they give you your print statement, because that has to match the output exactly, like this number space this number space this number space this number, without if I were doing it in Spider, I would be more descriptive, but we can't do that here. So we have 4 things we're calculating. In fact, let me copy this. Let me copy this and put it in my output right here just for a minute. The first thing I need to do, because this program is having us practice some of those math functions, so I need to import the math header file. So I say import math. And then I have given 3 floating point values, X, Y, and Z, that I'm going to calculate things. So those are my 3 inputs. So I'm going to take that out. X, Y, and Z I take them in as floats. And again, look at my sample input. If it's 5.0, 1.5, and 3.2, those are floats. So that's what I'm going to take them in as. Then I have 4 things I'm going to calculate. I'm going to output x to the power of z. I'm going to calculate x to the power of y to the power of z. I'm breaking this down because that's one long sentence. And I'm going to calculate the absolute value of x minus y. And then my 4th thing is the square root of x to the power of z. So those are the 4 things I'm trying to figure out. Here, line 13 right now, they do this in one long big statement. But that I think is confusing. And that's based on, let's see, your value 1, your value 2, your value 3, and your value 4. Actually, let's do it that way instead of what that line was. Okay. So here's the formula for the first part. Here's the formula for the second one, the third one, and the 4th one. But the way that they did it in line 15 as one long output statement makes for really confusing code. So if I had, if I wanted to use line 14, which is a little bit more simple, I'm going to do the first one. So I'll say, your value for number 1 is equal to, what are we trying to calculate? This is what we're trying to calculate for this one.
X to the power of z.
Yep. So let me just put this down here so we have it right there. So we're trying to calculate x to the power of z. Now that in math, you say x caret z, right? That's how you would write it if you were writing with, writing math. But that doesn't work. The caret x raised to the power of z doesn't work in any programming language. You can't do that. So we have to use these math header file, or these math functions that are already built for us. So we say we want to raise something to the power, and there's a whole table in the chapter that says this is how you do absolute value, this is how you do square root, this is how you do math.pow, this is all of those math calculations, this is how you do it. So we say math.pow, and then x raised to the power of z. That's how we do it.
Huh.
And that's the same as like if you were in math writing x raised to the power of z. But we use the POW function. The first number is the base number, comma. The second number is what you're raising it to.
And I have a question. So the POW and the FABs and the square root, those would not translate unless line 1 you had import math.
Exactly. Yep. You have to have import math. If you don't have import math, you're going to have a problem. All right. The second one we're doing is x to the power of y to the power of, x to the power of y to the power of z. So we're doing I just moved it down here so I can see it closer. So I'm gonna say math.pow and x, and that's gonna be raised to y to the power of z. So instead of just saying z like 3 to the power 2, I'm going to say 3 to the power of y minus the power. So that's where, so inside of here, I say math.pow again. And that's where I say y comma z, and then I close out my matching parentheses. And that's the same as saying, okay, x raised to, and up inside of there, it's going to be y to the power of z. I wish I could write it on paper, but I can't. So x is the base number, and I'm raising that to the power of y to the power of z. So this, goes up.
Huh.
And that's just because that's what it asked us to do. Raise x to the power of y to the power of z. So that's how you write it. Math.pow. Here's the open, here's the close, here's the open, there's the close. The next one is the absolute value of x minus y. Absolute value is just the whole number. So I'm going to say your value 3 is equal to math.pow. What is it? FABS?
I believe so.
And what I'm trying to do is pound the absolute value of x minus y. So fabs and then x minus y. Fabs is the absolute value, and then that's it. So that's the, if x minus 5 is -5, 5 gets printed to the screen. And then the last one, and that's what we're trying to code. The square root of x to the power of z. So I'm going to use the square root function and the power function. So inside of here, I'll say math.pow, the square root. So math.square root first, SQRT. And then I'm doing the square root of x to the power z. So math.pow, and then x comma z, and close that out. Now, hold on a second. Okay, so now I'm going to comment out this line. I don't want line 20 to run, because that was what I originally had, but I wanted to break it down into way more manageable statements. So I just used line 18. So let me leave that. I got to cut out line 7 here.
That was my next question was, well, what is now line 13? Would that have been the same result as line 15?
Yep. It would have been the exact same, but it's way more complicated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave that right there for a minute. I'll be right back, okay, you guys?
Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll go on to the last section. Everyone can screenshot that and process it for a second. All right. Thank you guys. I feel like it's rained for like 40 days straight.
Yeah.
Still raining.
It kind of flurried today.
Oh my gosh, did it?
Just a little bit, yeah. I do have a question if we could, it's real quick.
No problem.
Looking at line 13, the curly brackets, does that just indicate that that is a completely independent computation?
It's not, yeah, it's an independent value that you're rounding to 2 decimal places.
Okay. Okay, I gotcha. So there are no commas needed in between those?
I better run this just to make sure. Okay, we gotta enter in 3 numbers, so let's say 5.6, 2.8, 9.4. Oh, they don't like my comment. Oh, I got 2 pound signs here. Now, remember, when you're coding this, you guys, all these things that are after the pound sign, you don't need to code. It's not part of the code. It's just I leaving it in there so you can see. So you can
Okay.
see it's an example.
All right.
You don't need to code line. You don't need to code line 15.
It's just your notes.
Just my notes. Yep. It's documentation. Math range error. I'm gonna take that out and see if I got a issue with that. Let me check my value too. Math.pow x math.pow y raised to the power of z. So x to the power of y raised to the power of z. I wonder if it doesn't like that caret sign. Let me just copy this sample input too. Maybe my sample output is maybe off.
Oh,
I wonder, I had this number as 9.
huh. But, huh. Didn't you tell it 2 decimal places? Or is that a whole number? Oh, that's a whole number. Wow.
It is 2 decimal places.
Oh, huh.
What number is that? No, I'm not telling you.
I don't know.
I think it was my caret sign in
Just
my comment. I think
easier
that
to
was
know.
causing a problem, like a keyword.
I thought it's supposed to ignore it though.
Yeah.
Mm,
Maybe
Let's-
that's the Zybooks thing.
mhm.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Well, you guys could see what I did.
Huh.
Okay, it could have been my other numbers not jiving. Like I did 5 point something. I don't.
Huh.
Okay, it's something with my numbers because it says overflow math range error. So it's not the comments, it's with my my numbers are going outside of the range of what float can store is what it's coming up to.
Hmm.
So you noted that one number that was really large,
Mm-hmm.
probably it's when I increase my numbers just a little bit, it's probably going float can only store like a number that stores like I think it's 64, like it can only store number up to a certain range. So I think when I change my input values, it goes outside of that range.
Huh.
Anyway, there, now it's working. Let me go over to submit mode. So that's a good example. Read the errors, check your, use your sample input that they provide to see if it works. Submit for grading. These numbers are probably going to be pretty low too. Yeah. 5, okay, 3, -3 and 5, and then
Huh.
all right,
I
let's
thought the
go, 'cause
input had to be a float. With
I
that,
did have floats, but my numbers were too large.
with that second example that they gave us, there were no floats.
No, there were floats. There was a 0.
Ooh, yeah, the input. Oh, I thought the input had to be floats as well.
No, the inputs are, well, they're floats can store whole numbers, but we couldn't, but integers can't store floats.
Okay,
So that's the difference there.
I get it.
Okay, guys, we have been on for 2 hours. We're gonna stay though. If you have to leave, leave, but I'm gonna go through we've already started talking about 3. I'm gonna go through the labs, the final labs in 3.
Yeah, I have
Kind of
just
real quick.
sorry.
No, go ahead. What's your question?
I have one single question on a challenge activity 313. Because
Okay,
I was trying to do it, I only got like 50% of it, but I'm confused. I don't know where my error is coming from. I'm only getting 50% of it.
okay, let's look at that one first, because that one is actually kind of, I don't care for that one either, but kind of wonky. 3. Let me check the assignment too. Let's see which ones we had to do for 3 real quick. So we have to do 12. Wait. 3.12, 3.14, 3.15, 3.16.
Those are the labs.
Oh,
Oh, am I in the wrong one?
oh no,
No,
yeah,
those are
no.
the labs.
Yeah, the question is on challenge activity.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
not the phone number.
No,
Okay.
not the labs yet, not the labs yet.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm gonna go back to those labs.
Okay.
For the challenge assignments.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I left this one out because that one is a weird program. That's why. But that was not what you're asking me about. You're asking me about
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah.
Can you
It's
say the number again? 3 point what?
3.13. 3.13. Yeah, it's on strings. And then on the chaplet all the way down.
Challenge 3.13.
Oh, yes. That's, I think you,
No, this is 1.11. Down again. Yeah,
Concatenating.
this is the one right here.
ah.
Yeah. So should I give you my code?
Let me walk through the code and hopefully you
Okay.
can figure it out from a solution.
Okay.
Because probably other people will have the same thing.
Can I interject with another little question?
Yeah.
I've begun to see do not provide a prompt in this chapter 3. And it again notes do not write a prompt for the input values. What do they mean by that?
That means they don't want you to say, please guess your mileage, or please, like, they don't want you to say enter a prompt. So they don't want you to say, enter in how much gas you get or mileage you get per gallon of gas. They don't want that.
I wish they would have said that early on in like chapter 1 and
Well, they never have you do that. It just, that's why, like with Spider, I like to ask for prompts because you know what you're supposed to be entering.
Mhm.
Sorry, my windows are so wonky, like I can't see everything.
Wait until you get that 44-inch screen.
I know. Okay. So So 3 point, we're writing two statements that read in values for my city and my state. Now these are strings, my city, my state. So that's line 4 and 5. Do not provide a prompt. That's where it's saying, don't
Is it-
say print.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's the mistake I was making. Oh man. Yeah, I was providing the prompt, but that's confusing though.
yeah, it is.
I don't know why, but that's what it says. Do not provide a
Wow.
prompt. So don't do that.
Ah
It's
man.
books in stupid, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we have 4 and 5, and then log entry.
Mhm.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm straining my voice a little bit, but we're gonna get through this. Line 6, log entry is the current time, which is set already, plus the city, plus the state, and then you just print it out as one.
Mhm.
Now, does
Oh.
this one is that example where it doesn't have your input box. It just
Yeah.
tests it for you.
Right.
So it goes back to chapter 1 where I don't
Yeah.
know why there's no, oh, maybe because we're in the challenge and not in the labs.
Yeah, most of the labs actually have the option to enter a prompt. I mean, a prompt option.
Yeah. Did you have any, before I go over the labs real quick, did you have any other little questions you want me to address real quick that you've been asking me about, either one of you?
No, for me, that's it.
Okay.
I'm sure I will, but this has been a huge help. Thank you so much for holding these Zoom meetings.
Yeah, so let's see, we're gonna go through these kind of fast, but if anyone has other questions about these, just reach out to me. And when we Zoom next week, we could hit on them again, but I want to do 312, 14, 15, and 16, because those are all of the labs.
Yeah, 314, 1. That's the only one I haven't done. I did like the three other labs. So only have 314, 1.
Yeah, this one is easy. This one is
Yeah,
just
yeah, this one.
printing.
Let's make a review.
Yeah. Here, I'll grab this from here even. This one shouldn't be any problem.
Oh,
But you could do it differently.
Yeah, I kind of did it differently. That one is pretty long.
Yeah, this isn't the best way to do it. It's saying if your input characters are this and this, then draw this. So my base character of the arrow is a star, and then the head is a pound sign. Then it draws that arrow. So I put them into row 1, 2, 3. So if my inputs are A and a carrot, run this. So now my arrow looks like this.
Oh,
Cool.
huh.
So we did something similar to this in chapter 1, but we hard coded it. And
Yeah.
now we're entering the input of not of values. So let me do an O and a and sign.
When something is a string literal, is it a value or is it just whatever numerals or numeric expressions or letters that it happens to be in the string literal?
It can be numbers, it can be letters, but the numbers, you can't do calculations with them.
Okay. So they wouldn't be referred to as values then, would they? Or would they be referred to as just numerals? Or is that just
No,
semantics?
it's a string that it's like an address, like you couldn't do a calculation on an address.
Right. Okay.
So, okay, so that one is 3.12. Hold on, let me something. Okay, let's look at 313. I do skip 313 because anyone can try it if you want. I just don't like it. It's a weird program and it's complicated, but give it a try if you want.
Okay.
314. Okay, this is caffeine levels. I think this is confusing in understanding the formulas that they're asking us to do. Whoops. Putting up my window. Is my window? This program ends up being kind of small. What we're doing is we have one input, 100, or as an example. So we're entering a caffeine amount in milligrams. So if some coffee or some pill is 100 grams of caffeine or milligrams of caffeine, that's my input. Then I want to output what my level of caffeine is after 12 hours. I'm sorry, after 6 hours, 12 hours, and 24. Use a string formatting expression with conversion specifiers to output it as a floating point value. So what that's saying is put your numbers inside of a string so you can kind of write a sentence now. So before we were always just like printing out the number or a word. Here we're going to say more specific. After 6 hours, it's 50 milligrams because it's half-life. And then after 12 hours, it's going to be 25. And then after 24 hours, it's 6.25. So we already have our input. Our output is that, whoops. Our output is the formulas, and then it happens to format them at the same time. So
No print. Oh, that's just. Oh, okay.
sorry, let me go back.
Basically, just printing the statements.
Yes.
Okay.
What makes that a string? I feel like this is the same sort of thing we just saw in chapter 2. What differentiates this as the new concept of string?
I think this also answers our question remember when we were trying to do like a number plus a space plus a number, it's just where we're doing a string and then a number and a string. So we're printing a string and a formatted number at the same time
Okay, okay.
and rounding it to 2. So the whole string that we're formatting starts there and it ends here, because then that will match my output after 6 hours. And then here's that colon, and then it's saying 100 divided by 2 colon 2F, so it'll say 50.00 and then ends it with the milligrams. So this is showing you how to insert a number in the middle of a string literal.
I see.
Okay.
And we're formatting it at the same time.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised that the letter F is still isn't treated any differently. Well, I guess what we were looking at before with my questions about that letter F, it is the same. It's just a letter F indicating that a float is coming. And I guess I'm just surprised it's not treated like it's just kind of chilling, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you could it maybe I'll look up back in chapter 2 to look at the formatting of decimal values and see if it explains it a little bit more.
I could do that too.
Yeah, it might, it's just part of rounding, your number. The
Yeah.
formatting a value. Now, if it didn't say round to 2 decimal places, your statement would look something like, I would use double quotes. Hi, Nolan. Let's see, after 6 hours. And then I'm gonna plus and I'm gonna it would look something like that.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Would you didn't you define in line 1 caffeine underscore mg as your, oh, well, I guess it's not a float anymore.
Well, it is, yeah. So this would just say 100 divided by 2. So that would just come out as 50.
Okay.
It just wouldn't format it as 50.00.
Oh, okay.
But it would still be in the middle of my sentence.
I see. I gotcha. So those curly brackets in line 3, 5, and 6, those are, in our case anyway, for this problem, for float.
Yes.
Got
Yep. For two to the right of the decimal. Yep.
Now, another thing, I remember you emphasizing the importance of commas in our last Zoom, but I don't really remember the details. I haven't seen commas in this Zoom. I'm wondering
We did use commas with those POW functions and the square root functions. So in this one that I just deleted, we're using the plus here as a way to put one string literal next to a number next to another string literal. So we're
Okay.
not using it as adding a string plus a number. We're concatenating it. So the plus, concatenate means to join. So the plus has two meanings in programming. One is
Okay.
addition, and one is to put a number or to put a value next to another value.
Oh. And is that in all languages?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, it is.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that's this one. The only confusing thing here is just the half-life, understanding that, but there's the formula. I think the half-life concept is confusing to some, but we take it a number, we display the output. All right, 3 point. My son just got home, which means that we have to do some middle school math next.
Ah.
Oh yeah, Professor, I gotta go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry. Wiljonda,
Bye.
thank you for waiting and
Bye.
being so patient with me.
Okay, thank you so much. You really
Have a
helped
good
me.
night.
You as well. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
If you wanna do the homework with your kid, then we could wrap this up right now.
I want to finish these last two, even if I just show a simple
Okay.
solution without explaining everything.
Okay.
Just so that when I don't know. I just think we should probably get on to chapter 4 maybe next week, but
Okay. Okay, that's a good goal.
I know it's a lofty goal. We're good though.
We can do it.
Let's see. Let's look at the solution. All right. Again, they put so much in this sample solution anyway. They put so much into a statement.
Do you suggest like erasing all of the provided gobbledygook
That they give you?
Yeah.
I sort of wish we could just take the problem and code it over in Spider or PyCharms, yeah. But
I guess you could.
you can, but then you got to take stuff out when you move it back so it matches the input and stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Like, because you can't have a prompt that says you just have to say 200 and 210. You can't have a prompt that tells you what those numbers are. So this program, we're going to write a program with two inputs. One is the current price and is the last, and the second one is the last month's price. And then we're going to output a summary listing that shows the difference in value. So if my house was worth 200,000 this month, and then last month it was worth 210, I'm going to see that I had a change of negative 10,000. And then I'm going to also calculate. So I'll output that price, the change since last month, and the mortgage. And the mortgage is computed as the current price times 0.051 divided by 12, which would be the months. And then I'm going to format it. So this one's kind of a little bit easier, I think, as far as the calculations. And it's not all that math dot square root power raised to the x
Yeah.
z. That's confusing. But here, my house is worth 200,000. Last month it was 210, so I lost $10,000. But my mortgage is then the current price, which is 200,000 times 0.051 divided by 12, which comes out to $850. So my two inputs are the current and the last month. Now this chapter is teaching us how to write a string literal and insert a number in the middle. So it wants us to write our output so it matches this statement. This house is 200,000. So
Okay.
here we go. here we're using that F again. So we're saying F,
So expect a float.
yep. And then this house is, and then I put a $sign. And then in my curly brackets, I'm putting current price, but I'm not saying colon to F because I want it to just say 200,000 and not 200,000.00.
Okay. And you've already put 200,000 in the input box?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And then it says, and the change is, again, I'm in my curly braces, I'm saying the 200,000 minus 210. So that would come out to negative 10,000, but I'm not rounding it. And then the next line, I have the F again for format. And I have my mortgage statement, but this is the 0.2F because I want that 0.00 to come up.
Okay. And where did the figure times 0.051 come from?
That's how they calculate their mortgage. That must be a percentage rate.
Wow.
So the current value times the interest rate divided by 12, however they calculate mortgage payment in
Is
this
that
example.
supposed to represent an interest rate?
I would guess so.
Oh my.
5.1% interest.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you guess? Kind of high. I don't know what that number is, but it's right there for us. So
I bet you're right. It's gotta be.
yeah. So there's different ways you could code this. This is just one example. So that was 315, and then the last one, 316. Given 4 floating point numbers. What are we doing with this one? Simple statistics. That's an oxymoron, I'm sure. So given 4 floating point numbers, so we have 4 floats we're entering. Use a string formatting expression. So that's words and numbers together to output the product, their average as integers, and then as a floating point. So we're doing each number multiplied by each other. Yeah. That would be the product. And then we're doing the average. So rounded to a whole number. And then the average as a decimal.
Okay. Oh. So it wants 2 versions of the same answer?
Yeah, it looks like it. Let's break down the solution. So we already have our 4 inputs, which we knew would be floats. We have product and we have average. So product. So what does it say? Do the product and their average. Oh, okay. We're calculating the product and the average as integers and then as floating points. So here's the product, which is multiplied together. Here's the average as whole numbers, and then here's the second example where this is as a floating point, which is 3 to the 0.3F. So it just
that makes sense.
Yeah. So we take in the 4 numbers. Product is each number multiplied by the other. Average make sure you add them together first, then divide by 4. Num1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, put parentheses around that so that it doesn't take and do the division first. Very
Yeah.
important. There's that order of operations, which is now called something different.
Yeah.
And then print here, we're formatting it as a whole number. And then here we have to do that too. We have to say 0.0f, so don't put any to the right of the 0.
Okay.
We have to do that because they're floats.
Right.
If
And
it were
The
integers,
question is just asking for a whole number, right?
right? If the numbers that we entered were integers,
It would be
or yeah, then it would be okay. But anytime we, do a calculation, it has the potential to change. So anytime we like divide by something, then we could get a decimal, and what that would do then is if it were an integer, it wouldn't round it, it would just truncate it. So if it were 4.95, the answer would be 4 and not 5.
Ooh.
So that's kind of important to know, because that's where you would want to make sure the data types match.
Where did we see that in chapter 2? Where even if the answer were 4.95, with this particular function, it would be 4. The
I
round
think,
down rule.
yeah, probably where it talked about integer as the data type. If it were an integer as a data type, it would just truncate anything that was left and only look at the whole number,
Huh. Okay.
which would have been in
Oh,
chapter 2.
yes. And okay, I thought it was called something different than an integer. Oh, it's just a type of integer. I'll look in my notes. It's the devil's in the details. I get so caught up in the details. But
Yeah.
let's move on.
And then
Sorry.
the last statement is just a float. They're floats, but rounded to 3 decimal values. So that's where you get 20.71.68. And notice that we're using floats here and then 0.0. So it actually rounds up 20.71 to 20.72 or 20.72.
Oh,
And it doesn't just truncate it, it rounds it up.
okay. Huh.
And that's because they're floats and not integers. If they were integers, this number here would be 2071, because it would
Yeah.
just truncate it, cut it off.
Huh. I believe you and I even discussed in what instance that would be ever used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and it's the order of operations is the precedence rules for arithmetic operators.
So bizarre. All right, well, that's all of chapter 3 labs,
Oh my goodness.
but not like the challenges and stuff, just the ending part.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll have other questions, but
Okay, well, shucks, thank you for taking so much time to do this, and while you're sick too. That's extraordinary. Thank you.
no problem. I just was we needed to do it because the end of the week I have like some doctor's appointments and I wouldn't have time, so I wanted to get it done before
Oh,
people got
thank you.
too far behind.
You
All
are
right.
a saint among professors.
Well,
Thank
you have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rest up and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.